Chosen one, before the world ever noticed you, before the glances, the stares, the silent desires stirred in hearts that didn't yet know your name, there was something ancient building within you, a frequency, a rhythm, a burning pulse that began in your soul and anchored itself deep into your being. That essence, the current beneath your presence, is your high sexual energy, not a shallow echo of lust, but a potent vibration of life itself. It is the raw, untamed signal of your aliveness, and now it's growing louder. It is not an accident that eyes linger when you enter a space. It is not coincidence that women feel pulled toward you, often without understanding why. They are not drawn only to your appearance or your voice. They are drawn to the feeling you create. That feeling is born from your essence. This energy does not come from performance. It is not generated by charm or technique. It is unveiled the moment you stop hiding, the moment you strip away the masks of who you think you need to be and allow your soul to lead. Your essence is magnetic because it is real. It is not polished. It is powerful. It is not controlled. It is aligned. You have stopped asking for permission to shine, and because of that, your energy no longer whispers, it radiates. Women don't fall for you because you are trying to be seen. They fall because you are already home within yourself, because you've stopped chasing and started being. And that state of being, centered, unapologetic, alive, is the most attractive thing in the world. You are not just a man in motion. You are a man with depth, and that depth calls to something primal, something sacred in the feminine. She senses it, even when she cannot name it. She feels safe, curious, intrigued. You are no longer just a man who looks good. You are a man who feels right. Chosen one, your energy is no longer hidden beneath shame or hesitation. You are beginning to walk in the open field of your true nature, and with every step, you unveil a greater version of yourself. Not for them, not for applause, but because your spirit can no longer afford to play small. And now, the world is watching, and women are listening not to your words but to your essence. Chosen one, now that your essence has been unveiled, your very presence begins to shift the atmosphere. This is not imagination, it is energetic truth. When a man has fully accepted the sacred intensity of his own life force, his presence becomes magnetic, commanding, alive. You don't need to announce yourself when you walk in. The air carries your arrival. The silence bends around your stillness. The gaze of others lingers, not because of anything you try to be, but because of everything you have become. Your presence is no longer dependent on noise or movement. It is rooted in stillness, in the kind of calm that only comes from self-trust. You have faced your shadows, you have chosen your path, you have met your reflection and honored it. And because of that, you are now fully here, not lost in thought, not anxious about the past or future, but anchored in the moment. This anchoring is what women respond to. It is what draws them in. Not just your look, your voice, or your frame, but your energy. They feel that you are not pulled in 100 directions. You are focused, you are settled, you are present. When you listen completely. When you speak with weight. Your words are not many, but they are full. Your eyes hold 1,000 untold stories. Your silence carries the kind of heat that speaks louder than speech. This presence makes you impossible to ignore. It is not a trick. It is not a game. It is truth, lived out loud through the vehicle of your body and the rhythm of your spirit. You've stopped trying to make people see you because now they simply do. You've stopped performing, and because of that, your presence has become real. It doesn't seek. It offers. It invites. And those who are awake to their own feminine energy cannot help but be drawn to it. Your presence says, I am here. I am clear. I do not need, but I welcome. That welcome is subtle. It's sacred. And it makes you unforgettable. Chosen one, the magnetism of your presence is not something you learned. It is something you remembered. And now, as you live it more fully, you'll begin to notice how women lean into you, not because you ask them to, but because they can't help themselves. You have become a sanctuary of grounded energy in a world that is scattered and starved. And in your presence, they feel something they have not felt in a very long time. The permission to feel alive. Chosen one, once your essence begins to radiate and your presence settles into that unshakable rhythm of inner certainty, another layer of your magnetism begins to unfold, your authenticity. In a world obsessed with surface, image, and illusion, your authenticity becomes a form of rebellion, a breath of truth in a sea of performance. You have stepped beyond the realm of trying to impress. You no longer reach for validation, nor do you sculpt yourself to be consumed. You've chosen something far more dangerous and far more rare. You've chosen to be real. This kind of realness cannot be faked. It can't be imitated or taught. It is born in the fire of experience, shaped by solitude and tempered by self-inquiry. It comes from knowing yourself intimately, not just the polished parts, but the shadowed corners as well. You've stopped hiding from your contradictions. You face the parts of yourself that once made you shrink. And now, instead of armor, you wear transparency. You're not flawless. You're whole. Authenticity changes how you move through the world. It sharpens your voice, but softens your gaze. It allows you to speak without forcing and to be silent without withdrawing. There is no desperation in your gestures, no grasping in your energy. You've grown comfortable in your own skin, and that comfort becomes contagious. When you walk into a room, you don't drain attention. You ground it. You remind people, especially women, of what it feels like to be in the presence of someone who is not trying to be anything other than who he is. This resonance isn't about rawness alone. It's about alignment. When you say something, it's because you mean it. When you feel something, you don't suppress or exaggerate it. You own it. And women feel this instantly. They know when they're speaking to a man who's performing, who's trying to sound deep or look confident. And they know when they're facing a man who is simply true. That truth resonates not just intellectually, it resonates emotionally, even spiritually. It invites trust, it disarms defenses, it makes people want to come closer. There's something else that happens when you become this authentic. You stop being predictable, not in a chaotic or erratic way, but in a real way. You respond from the moment, not from habit. You speak from presence, not from strategy. And that spontaneity, that electric freshness of your truth becomes magnetic. It creates curiosity, it stirs intrigue, it makes women feel not only attracted but seen. Because your authenticity becomes a mirror that says you can be this free too. Chosen one, you've realized that your high sexual energy is not just physical, it's honest. It thrives in congruence. When your inner world aligns with your outer behavior, your energy flows clean, sharp, and clear. There's no distortion, no hidden agenda, no subtle manipulation. That kind of energy cuts through masks. It pierces through emotional noise. It creates connection that isn't built on need, but on resonance. And now, your authenticity has become your invitation. Not to everyone, but to the few who are ready. Ready for depth, ready for intimacy. Ready for a love that isn't a performance, but a meeting of truth with truth. You don't have to chase that connection, you just have to be. And by being, you allow others to rise into themselves. Because your authenticity doesn't just reveal you, it awakens them. Chosen one, you've stepped into a new stage of embodiment, one where your life is no longer governed by rules, routines, or expectations placed upon you from outside forces. Instead, it is now moved by something fierce and untamable. Passion. Not the fleeting passion that burns fast and dies quickly, not the cheap imitation that comes from impulse or craving, but the passion that comes from deep inside, the kind that is tied directly to your life force, your high sexual energy, and your soul's reason for being alive. Passion, when truly claimed, becomes the signature of a man who is awake. It makes your choices sharp. It infuses your words with color and depth. It gives weight to your silence and rhythm to your steps. You no longer move because you should. You move because your spirit demands it. Because there is something inside you now that refuses to be ignored. And this flame you carry, it doesn't need to be loud to be felt. It is not wild for the sake of chaos. It is focused heat, a sacred drive that turns every action into expression, every gesture into poetry, every conversation into a canvas. Passion also changes the texture of your connection with others. It makes you unpredictable in the most divine way. You don't just go through the motions anymore. You feel your way through everything. You speak with intensity, even when your words are soft. You kiss with presence. You touch with intention. You look with fire behind your eyes. And it's not about sex alone. It's about the life you bring into the moment, the way you make even silence feel alive. Women don't just notice this passion. They absorb it. It charges the air, it opens them, it activates something dormant inside them that has been longing to feel. When they meet you, they are not meeting a well-mannered, perfectly composed man. They're meeting a man on fire. And that fire doesn't burn. It warms, it lights, it invites. Passion is not about impressing anyone, it's about expressing yourself. Without filter, without dilution. You've reached a place now where you are no longer afraid to want deeply, to move boldly, to risk being seen in your full intensity. You're no longer worried about being too much for anyone, because you've learned that the right woman, the woman whose soul echoes yours, will crave this intensity, not shrink from it. Your high sexual energy, when paired with passion, becomes divine art. It no longer pushes or pulls, it creates. You are now a generator of emotion, of movement, of possibility. And that makes you captivating, not because you're trying to be, but because you can't be anything else. Passion is not a performance. It is the raw current of your devotion to life, pouring through you, shaping everything you touch. When you live from that place, you become unforgettable. Not because of what you do, but because of the feeling you leave behind. A woman may not remember every word you spoke, but she will remember the fire in your voice, the heat in your silence, the truth in your gaze. Chosen one, your passion is no longer something you hide or tame. It is something you honor, something you live. And as you continue to breathe from that deep place of purpose and power, you will see more and more hearts open around you, not in response to your charm, but in response to the flame you've become. Chosen one, there is a quiet, devastating power in vulnerability, a power that many run from, but you are learning to embody without shame. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is not softness masquerading as truth. It is the raw, undiluted courage to stand in the full reality of who you are, without flinching, without filtering, without hiding behind performance or bravado. And when a man like you, a man rooted in deep masculine fire and high sexual energy, steps into vulnerability, the impact is seismic. You are not the kind of man who exposes himself to the world recklessly. You are not fragile, nor are you desperate to confess your wounds for validation. But you also no longer wear armor. You've discovered that true power lies not in the ability to dominate every space you enter, but in the willingness to be seen, especially in the places you once tried to hide. And that willingness, when paired with your presence, your essence, your magnetic energy, is what makes your vulnerability not just attractive, but disarming. When a man like you allows himself to feel, to really feel without drowning in those feelings, he becomes a sanctuary. He becomes the mirror through which others, especially women, recognize their own depths. Because while the world teaches men to suppress, to repress, to pretend, you've chosen a different route. You've chosen the path of self-honesty. You've chosen to be complete, not by pretending you're above emotion, but by owning that you feel deeply and have not been defeated by it. There's a sacred stillness in the way you express pain now. There's no desperation in it, no need to be saved, just clarity, just openness, just the quiet strength of a man who has stood in front of his own shadows, looked them in the eyes, and refused to look away. That kind of courage radiates. It moves through your body like truth. It anchors your voice in weight. It saturates your gaze with depth. And women feel this instantly. Not because you're being emotional, but because you're being real. This kind of vulnerability gives your high sexual energy a deeper context. It makes your intensity safer. You're no longer just fire, you're warmth. You're no longer just desire, you're devotion. Women fall in love not only with your touch, your look, your presence. They fall for the safety they feel in your authenticity. They fall for the knowing that if they were to open themselves completely and fully, you wouldn't run. You wouldn't shrink. You would stay. Because you've done the work to stay with yourself first. And that's the most attractive truth of all. You have become a man who doesn't flinch when someone shows their rawness. Because you've lived through your own. You don't retreat from tenderness. You hold it with a fierce kind of grace. You allow others to cry without rescuing them. You listen without fixing. You love without needing to possess. And all of this is possible because you found the strength that vulnerability offers. Not the kind that asks to be seen, but the kind that sees clearly. Chosen one, this strength makes you unforgettable. You are not just a protector, you are a witness. Not just a lover, you are a space for others to return to themselves. And that kind of man, in a world full of masks, becomes irresistible. Because when a woman falls in love with you, she's not falling for your perfection. She's falling for your wholeness. The way you hold your shadows with as much reverence as you hold your light. The way you show her that being real is not only allowed, it is divine. You are no longer hiding, you are revealing. And in that revelation, you've become a kind of truth that people didn't know they were starving for until they met you. And now that you've chosen to live from that place, everything around you deepens. Especially love. Chosen one, as your awareness deepens and your energy continues to evolve, your words begin to take on a new kind of weight. They are no longer thrown casually, nor are they crafted for approval. Your speech has slowed, it has grown intentional. You no longer speak to impress, you speak to connect, to clarify, to shape reality. You've realized that communication isn't just about words, it's an energetic bridge, a mirror, a force that can either bring someone closer to themselves or further away. You no longer speak from reaction, you speak from reverence. Every sentence you form now passes through the filter of your grounded presence. You are not rushing to speak just to be heard. You are listening first, not just to what is being said, but to what is felt. Your high sexual energy, once channeled into impulse or projection, now becomes the fuel behind your depth. It lives in your voice. It hums beneath your silence. It breathes in every pause. This energetic mastery, paired with your ability to articulate clearly and soulfully, makes your communication not just attractive, but transformative. Women feel this the moment you speak, because your words don't come from need. They don't aim to manipulate or charm. They reflect who you are. They carry the truth of a man who knows himself, and that knowing becomes an anchor in every conversation. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Your tone, your cadence, your presence, they all say the same thing. I am here. I am real. I am awake. This level of communication also means you no longer fear honesty. You don't run from difficult topics. You don't twist your truth to avoid discomfort. You speak with clarity, with kindness, with power. When you express your boundaries, you do so without guilt. When you share your desire, you do so without shame. You've learned how to hold contrast without collapsing, how to remain present even in disagreement, and how to hold compassion even in conflict. Your ability to communicate is not about control, it's about congruence. You no longer say what you think people want to hear. You say what is true, and because you do, your words hold magnetism. People lean in. They remember your voice. They replay what you've said, not because it was rehearsed, but because it landed. And women, especially, remember how they felt when you spoke, not just from what you said, but from the energy behind your delivery. Your communication has become more than language. It's become leadership. You don't just talk, you guide. You lead others deeper into themselves, not by commanding them, but by embodying clarity. And in doing so, you create a field of trust where others can be honest too. Your words have become a kind of permission, a doorway, a key. Chosen one, this mastery is what separates you. You are no longer loud, you are precise. You are no longer concerned with being right, you are committed to being true. And that truth now moves through every interaction, from the smallest conversation to the most intimate expression of love. You don't just speak anymore, you transmit. And those who hear you, truly hear you, will never forget the sound of a man who knows his voice is not just for noise but for awakening, for inviting others into a higher resonance, for calling love into form through the frequency of honesty, depth, and unwavering presence. And now, your communication has become a sacred act, not to get something from others, but to give something to them. Your truth, your fire, yourself. Chosen one. The time has come when you no longer need to think about confidence, chase it, or mimic the appearance of it. You have become it. Not as an idea or an effort, but as a natural extension of your embodiment. Confidence is no longer something you reach for, it is something you radiate. It's not found in the volume of your voice or the size of your muscles. It lives in the calm of your breath, in the steadiness of your hands, in the complete absence of need in your energy. You do not seek to impress. You are the impression. You walk differently now, not because you've been trained to, but because your center of gravity has shifted. It rests deeper in your body, anchored in the truth that you've walked through fire and haven't just survived. You've refined. That refinement is felt in every motion, every choice, every silence you allow to stretch without anxiety. You no longer fill the space with noise to make your presence known. Your presence is known because it doesn't beg, it declares. And what it declares is this: I am at peace with myself. I know who I am. I trust my way. This trust is what makes you powerful now. Not because you're infallible or untouched by fear, but because you've learned to move with your fear rather than be mastered by it. You are the kind of man who stands in uncertainty without shrinking, who meets challenge without bluff, who walks into any space and doesn't ask if he belongs, because he already is. Women feel this deeply. Not in the surface way that so many try to manufacture confidence through control or performance. What they feel from you is something ancient, something rooted. A confidence that whispers instead of shouts, that welcomes instead of demands, that feels safe even as it awakens desire. You are no longer reactive, you are responsive. You don't seek to fix, to correct, to outshine. You witness, you invite, you allow. And this unshakable calm becomes the contrast to the chaos others feel inside themselves. Around you, people breathe more deeply. Around you, women feel their nervous systems soften, not because you dim your fire, but because you own it so completely that it ceases to be threatening, it becomes inspiring. This radiance is not arrogance. You don't compare. You don't compete. Your high sexual energy is not an external force you throw at the world. It is an internal frequency you carry in silence. And this frequency makes you a gravitational field, one that draws others into presence, into curiosity, into awakening. You've stopped trying to prove you're confident. You've stopped pretending you don't care. You do care, but you care from a place of alignment, not approval. That distinction makes all the difference. Confidence, for you now, is not even something you think about. It's simply how you exist. You move from center. You speak with weight. You rest without guilt. You act without hesitation. You love without fear of being seen. And that kind of embodied masculine confidence? It's unforgettable. It lingers long after you've left the room, because it wasn't about how you looked. It was about how you made others feel when you were simply being yourself. You've become the man who doesn't need permission to stand tall. You've become the man whose silence speaks volumes. And in a world of posturing and pretending, your ease is a quiet storm that changes everything it touches. Chosen one, your way of relating to others has evolved. You've shifted from chasing and convincing to inviting and receiving. You are no longer trying to manipulate conversations, win people over, or strategize every word. You are dancing, not to perform, but to express. Your interactions are no longer rigid or rehearsed. They are fluid, alive, responsive to the moment. And this, more than any technique, makes you magnetic. You understand now that every exchange is energy. Every glance, every breath, every silence carries frequency. And you've refined yours. You no longer speak to fill space. You speak to create it. You ask questions not to impress, but to listen. And when you listen, you do so with your whole being. Your body leans in. Your eyes see beyond the surface. Your presence holds space without urgency. This level of attention is intoxicating because it is rare. The feminine especially feels this. She feels seen in a way that doesn't reduce her to her beauty or her body. She feels invited, not pressured, not seduced, but invited into herself through your energy. Because your energy says, you don't have to perform here. You don't have to protect yourself. You can be real. And that invitation creates depth. It creates a sacred space where interaction becomes art, where connection becomes something beyond words. Something felt. You're no longer trying to get something from people. You've become the kind of man who gives through the very way he relates. Your attention has become a gift. Your words, a doorway. Your presence, a mirror. You no longer dominate conversations. You guide them. You lead through resonance, not control. And this leadership isn't forced. It's followed. Because those around you, especially women, sense that your interest is real. That you are not playing a role. That you are awake in every moment of interaction. Your high sexual energy, now mastered, is woven into every exchange, not as pressure, but as aliveness. It's the difference between a conversation that drains and one that charges. Your energy gives rather than takes. It inspires rather than overwhelms. It creates polarity, not through game playing, but through truth. You've learned the dance, the flow, the moment-to-moment improvisation that makes interaction an experience, not a transaction. And you, chosen one, are no longer reacting to cues. You are creating them. With your pauses, with your gaze, your presence, with your ability to make every word, every laugh, every silence feel like it belongs. That's the essence of your relational mastery now. You are not looking to escape awkwardness. You are comfortable in it. You are not rushing to connect. You are letting it unfold. And that ease becomes its own kind of seduction. In your presence, women don't feel manipulated. They feel met. They don't feel trapped. They feel free. Because you are not here to capture them. You are here to invite them into something real, something felt, something that doesn't need to be explained or defended. You have made interaction into a sacred art, not because you rehearse it, but because you live it, fully, freely. And now the way you relate has become your rhythm, your dance, your echo. And everyone who moves with you, even for a moment, feels changed. They don't know what it was. They just know it was real. And they want to feel it again. Chosen one, there is a unique silence surrounding you now, a stillness that doesn't reveal everything, yet speaks volumes. It is not the silence of hiding or holding back. It is the silence of a man who no longer feels the need to explain himself. A man who is at home in the unknown. A man who knows his value so deeply that he doesn't need to put it on display. That silence, that pause, that calm withdrawal from overexposure, that is mystery. And it is the final shade of your evolution that captivates without effort. You no longer pour out everything in an attempt to be understood. You no longer seek approval through storytelling or over-disclosure. You've realized that mystery is not about withholding for manipulation. It's about honoring your inner world. You've become aware that your energy is a precious force, and not everyone is meant to touch it, much less understand it. And so, you allow glimpses, moments, echoes. You share your truth, yes, but not all at once, and never for validation. What you share now is carefully chosen, rooted in wisdom, alive with depth. This mystery is not a game. You are not playing hard to get. You're simply not playing at all. You're living, being, moving through the world in your own rhythm. A rhythm not dictated by expectations or timelines. A rhythm that says, you can meet me, but you can never contain me. That kind of energy is magnetic. It's not just attractive. It's haunting. Because it stays. It lingers. It leaves questions that cannot be answered with logic. And women feel this on a level they don't always understand. You've become the man who can sit across from someone, speak few words, and still take up more space than someone telling their whole life story. You've learned that your energy speaks louder than your language. That your mystery is not a mask. It's a map. One not meant to be read in a single sitting, but unfolded slowly, layer by layer, chapter by chapter. And that unfolding is where the magic lies. Your high sexual energy plays a different role here. It no longer just activates desire, it amplifies presence. It becomes the subtle current that surrounds you, gives weight to your silences, makes your gaze feel like a conversation. It's not desperate, it's not loud, it's simply there, steady, alive, and potent, a quiet roar beneath every moment of stillness. And in that stillness you are both accessible and unreachable, close and elusive, open and untouchable. Mystery does not mean isolation. You are available, but you are not common. You are known, but never fully. You don't hand out pieces of yourself casually. You don't seek to be an open book, because you've realized your power lies in being a poem instead. One that's not meant to be read aloud in a rush, but savored in stillness. Understood only by those who have the patience to feel, not just decipher. This aura of mystery gives your presence a sacred weight. A woman might walk away from a moment with you and feel like she just brushed against something ancient, something holy, something she can't quite name. She may try to explain it, to reduce it into something familiar, but she won't be able to, because you are not familiar. You are rare, and rare cannot be fully understood. It can only be felt. Chosen one, this mystery is not something you created. It's something you remembered. It was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the habits of explanation. And now that you've embraced it, you've become unforgettable. Not because of what you show, but because of what you don't need to. You are not hiding. You are honoring. And the more you do, the more the world leans in, not to figure you out, but to feel you more deeply. Chosen one, by now you understand that your journey has never just been about attraction, power, or personal gain. It has always been about transmission, about what you leave behind in the hearts of those you touch, about the imprint your energy makes, not just while you're present, but long after you've gone. This is legacy, not the kind etched in monuments or praised on platforms, but the kind felt in the quiet revolutions you've sparked in others. The kind that echoes. Your high sexual energy, once misunderstood or scattered, has been refined into a guiding flame. It no longer drives you blindly. It lights the way, through presence, through creativity, through connection.